What's going on, everybody? So I've had a lot of my followers, friends and family say, Al, can you do some content on how I can set up my kid for the future? So that the intention for today's video is to talk about the Registered Education Savings Plan, which is the RESP, and talk about the benefits and why should somebody consider it. So number one, the reason why someone should consider this RESP is because this is a tax sheltered plan, just like the TFSA, just like the RRSP. So whether this is capital gains, whether this is dividend from your stocks or interest from your bonds, we're able to use this money and compound over time so that we can have more money set aside for your children's education. If this was an open account or if this was a non-registered account, then you would have to pay taxes on the gain. So as an example, if you had RBC stock and this RBC stock was paying you a dividend, once you sell this stock, you would have to pay taxes on the gain, capital gain. But since this is a tax sheltered account, you will not have to pay taxes in this account. Now, one of the biggest benefits of the RESP is that you can get a guaranteed 20% from the government. This is called the CESG, which stands for the Canada Education Savings Grant. Now, the maximum that you can earn per year is $500 of government grant money. So if you put in $2,500, the government is going to give you $500 per year. There is a lifetime government grant of $7,200, and there also is a lifetime maximum of $50,000 that you could contribute to the RESP. You definitely don't want to over contribute, so if you had $50,001, then the government is going to ding you a 1% penalty per month until you do get this fixed. Another good thing to note is that you can backdate the RESP grant money 1 year at a time. So if you missed 1 year, then the very next year you could double it up. You can put $5,000 in an RESP and the government would give you $1,000. Now, some people, they leave it to the end of the year and then they're gonna backdate it 1 year at a time. But for most of my clients, they just put in on an annual basis or a monthly basis and they hit that government grant max per year. Another thing to know about the RESP is that there's actually another grant the government is going to give you, which is called the Canada Learning Bond. Now, this is for families that have very low income, and I'm going to post here on the video how you can qualify for the Canada Learning Bond. Majority of families will not qualify for this. However, I do have some clients where they do have a strong income. The one spouse has a strong income, and let's say there's a stay-at-home mom, you will actually get a letter from the government mentioning that you do qualify for the Canada Learning Bond. I just had a client that provided me the letter, and the Canada Learning Bond did provide their son an extra $800 to go towards their education. Another thing to note when it comes to the RESP is there's actually two different types. There is individual RESP and there's a family RESP. Majority of the ones that I do are family RESPs. The reason why you would consider doing an individual though is if you had kids that aren't blood related. So if they aren't blood related, then you would open up two separate individual RESPs and they would have the maximum grant money of $7,200 plus a maximum contribution of $50,000. If they are related, which majority of my clients are, then I open them up a family RESP. The total contributions would be $100,000, but the government grant money would remain at $7,200 per child. The benefits of having a family RESP is what happens if one child wants to become a tradesman and the other child wants to be a doctor and go to med school. Okay? Well, now you can be able to use, let's say 80% of the money to fund the med school and 20% of the money to fund the tradesman. Now, the government grant money has to stay $7,200 aside, but you can get more creative and more flexible with a family RESP. Now, as far as taxes are concerned with the RESP, one thing to note is that when the child goes to school, once you take money out of the RESP, it is taxed at the child's bracket. Okay, it is not taxed at the contributor's tax bracket. Now, usually the child's going to school and they're in a very low income tax bracket, so this is not essentially a huge deal, but it is definitely something to note when it comes to exploring your options with an RESP. Another thing to note is a big question that I get all the time is, well, what happens if my kid doesn't go to school? Which is a great question. What will happen is that the government is going to take back their 20%. So they're going to take back their government grant money. Since you made those contributions with after-tax dollars, you could roll that over to your TFSA. The growth of the account could get transferred over to an RRSP. Now, let's say you had those accounts maxed out. What do? On the government website, it does state that if you want to pull out all the money in cash, that you are going to pay taxes on that. Plus, there is even in some cases that I'll put here in the video that you are going to pay a 20% fee on that. So that's something to keep in mind. A couple other bonuses that I'll mentioned, and it's especially for advisors out there as well. When you are pulling money out of an RESP, it is very important that the advisor pulls the government grant money first. Well, why is that? Well, if the kid ever drops out, or if the kid flunks out, or any of the others, that you just took out the government grant money first, right? So if the kid drops out, the parents can still receive that money from the growth and from their contributions. Okay, so that is very important. Make sure that you are taking the government grant money first out of the RESP. So in summary, that is the RESP. It is a tax sheltered plan where you're guaranteed to get 20% from the government, plus whatever you earn in the stock market, whether you're investing in ETFs, stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. Okay? If you have any questions though on how the RESP can work, feel free to give me a shout or just DM me on Instagram. See you later.